What's going on, you guys? It's Anna. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a ranking video, ranking the champions of the UFC from worst to best. Now before we get into the video, just because I have some people better than others, that doesn't mean nobody in this video is a bad fighter. I just want to say that right now, right off the gate. You are a UFC champion for a reason. I mean, you've earned your spot at the top. Well, some more than others, obviously. I will get into that in a second. But obviously, there are some fighters who are champions that are better than others. And this is just obviously an opinion. We can all have opinions. So, like the video if you like this video, and I want to do these kind of videos. I've been trying to do these kind of videos for the past few days and stay consistent with the channel. So, if you like this type of content, subscribe and like the video, okay? So, let's go ahead and get into who I believe is the worst UFC champion out of all the champions. By the way, we're going to be doing men only. I'll do the women real quick. I mean, it's only, I believe, what, 3? I think the worst is Alexa Grasso, then is Zhang Weili, and then is Amanda Nunes. Amanda Nunes is the best, obviously. And then I think the worst is Alexa Grasso, and then Zhang Weili is right in the middle, in my honest opinion. But let's go ahead and get into the list. The worst men's fighter who is a champion is Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill is a great fighter, okay? He's a fantastic fighter. But he is not on the level of the other guys that I'm going to name. He obviously had a great performance against Glover Teixeira, but he's a guy that could possibly lose his belts. I mean, everybody can lose their belt, but his striking is what's best about him, but his grappling, obviously, his takedown defense was good, but when you look at the other fighters that are on this list, I believe they are better fighters than him. You know what I mean? We were kind of shocked when they made that announcement right away, immediately after, because Jamal Hill was not really a title contender. You know what I mean? I feel like he was probably a fight away before the Glover Teixeira fight, but we didn't really expect him to even win anyway. I think the majority of people picked Glover Teixeira, but he surprised everybody and he beat Glover Teixeira, and shout out to Jamal Hill for doing that. But to me, he is the worst fighter. He's still a great fighter, okay? But, I mean, I can see him lose to a guy like Alex Pereira. I can see him lose to Jan Blachowicz. I can see him lose to Ankalaev. I can see him lose to a lot of guys in the division. Obviously, Yuri Prochazka, when he comes back, I can see him lose to those guys. But that is not an insult. He is the UFC light heavyweight champion. He's a great fighter, but he is the worst on the list. My second worst. Now, I kind of went back and forth with these next two guys, because I feel like, you know, this could change, obviously. I have Aljamain Sterling. The reason why I have Aljamain Sterling underneath Moreno, Aljamain Sterling to me has not had a very, how do I say it? I mean, he obviously had a great performance against Petr Yan. You know, I believe he actually did win the fight, sadly. I mean, it was a very, like, extremely close, razor thin, very close. But I mean, his performance against TJ, I mean, TJ, like, had one arm, you know what I mean? And that's not really on Aljamain's, you know, side. That's not his fault. But since being champion, I mean, his performances are okay. You know, his Jan performance is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I'll not take anything away from him. But that TJ performance is a little iffy. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's just obviously, and then the way he won the championship as well. You know, I obviously don't agree. I mean, I understand he probably wasn't able to continue, but then after you take a picture with the title and you kind of brag that you're the champion, even though the way you won it was kind of fishy. So that's the reason why I have him low. He's a great fighter, a great grappler. His striking is a little iffy. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not a big fan of his striking, but overall his grappling is top tier. I mean, on this list, he's probably one of the better grapplers on this list. I mean, he's probably top 3. You know what I mean? So he's a great fighter, but if he beats Cejudo, he might be above this next person, which is Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno, I just think his overall game is better than Aljamain Sterling. I think his grappling is pretty good. Obviously, his striking is great. He has a really good chin. Just everything about him, man. He's just a really good fighter, very good all-around fighter. I just don't think he's on the level of the next guys that I'm going to mention. I mean, obviously, I don't think he is because he's this low on the list. But I do think he is better than Aljamain Sterling. Overall, as a fighter, I just think that he has more of an all-around game. He can grapple. He can pretty much go anywhere, and I believe he'll be comfortable. I mean, obviously, if you face like a guy who's just mostly grappling, he's probably going to struggle in that department. But his overall game is great, so I have him over Aljamain Sterling. So Brandon Moreno is next. Now we have the next fight. These to me are these are the top tier fighters in MMA, in my opinion. Like these guys are, I mean, these next few guys that I'm going to name, I mean, these are some of the best fighters that we've seen in all of the UFC in the past like years. You know what I mean? And I'm not taking anything away from the fighters of last few decades. You know what I mean? Because obviously every champion that's ever been a champion in the UFC, they're great fighters. But man, the next guy is Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards this low? I mean, the only reason why Leon Edwards is this low, I mean, he's just not on the level of the other guys, really. I mean, the only guy that I think he's on the level of is the next person that I'm going to mention, but I'm not going to say his name yet. Leon Edwards is a great fighter. His performance against Kamaru Usman was fantastic. And he's definitely already kind of making a name for himself. He's already have one title defense. His performance, though, in beating Kamaru Usman with the head kick was a little iffy. I'm not going to lie to you, because he was losing that fight. But obviously, the location that they were in definitely hurt his performance. You know, he was definitely gassed out pretty much after the first round. So when he went to the UK, you saw what happened. He wasn't tired. He was able to have good not good grappling, but a good takedown defense against Kamaru Usman. He had a great performance against Kamaru Usman, where I believe he won pretty much almost every single one except maybe one or two. I mean, that was a great performance from Leon Edwards, in my honest opinion. But he's just low on this list. His grappling, obviously, the grappling department is not great, but he's such an elite striker that you have to put him. In my opinion, I think he's better than Brandon Moreno, just because his striking is fantastic. I mean, you saw the performance that he had against Nate Diaz. I mean, he completely dominated him, except for that last minute of the fight. Every other minute of that fight, Leon Edwards completely dominated Nate Diaz. You saw his performance against Bilal Muhammad. I mean, he made Bilal Muhammad look foolish in that fight. I mean, he completely dominated until that eye poke. And he completely dominated RDA. He's just a great fighter. He's just a very good fighter. But I don't have him. You know, the next few guys to me are like, they're on a different level to me compared to Leon Edwards. The next guy is Israel Adesanya. I think Israel Adesanya, obviously, he's a fantastic fighter. Obviously, he's kind of in the same realm to me as Leon Edwards, just based off his striking is so good. But obviously, the grappling department is not great, to be honest with you. I went back and forth with Leon and Izzy. I think that Izzy is just that he has so much more title defenses. He has like such an amazing track record. I mean, just the amount of title defenses that he's had. Obviously, there's some fluky finishes. You know, a lot of people picked Robert Whittaker over him in the second fight. You know, a lot of people said that was a bad decision. Obviously, his fight against Cannonier was pretty ass. I'm not gonna lie to you. He got finished by Alex Pereira, but then he came back with a fantastic finish against Alex Pereira in the next fight. And I believe that fight honestly put him over Leon Edwards for me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, overall, I mean, his UFC career has been fantastic. He's had a few hiccups, obviously the Jan Blachowicz fight, but he went up in weight. This is not really counting his time in middleweight. So aside that, I mean, he pretty much only had maybe two hiccups. I would say two hiccups in his middleweight career, but he's already, to me, the second greatest middleweight in history. You know what I mean? So I have to give him this respect. I have to put him over Leon, because Leon hasn't had too many title defenses just yet. I do believe that Leon definitely beats. I mean, he doesn't definitely beat Colby Covington. That's going to be a tough fight. That's a tough fight. But Izzy has the track record, and I put him over that just because of the track record itself. So yeah, I put Izzy over Leon Edwards. The next fighter. This was tough. This top three, I mean, is fantastic. I mean, really, like, insanely good. Some people are going to get upset with me. Some people are going to be like, yeah, I 100% agree with you. Islam Makhachev is next. Now, it was tough, because obviously Islam Makhachev beat Alexander Volkanovski, right? But Islam, to me, his striking is pretty good. And don't get me wrong, his striking has gotten a lot better. Don't get me wrong, and he showed it in that fight against him and Volk. But he struggled a lot in that fight against Volkanovski. who was a much smaller guy than him. You know what I mean? He's struggling. In that 5th round, he pretty much got dominated. That was a pretty clear 10-9 for Volkanovski. I mean, we haven't seen Islam Makhachev in that position, and the only person that put him in that position is Alexander Volkanovski. But he's a great fighter, though. He's a great fighter. His grappling is top tier. He's probably the best grappler on this list, to be honest with you. If I had to like do a ranking, he's for grapplers, championship grapplers, he's definitely number 1 on this list. But his striking, even though it's very good, is not on the level of these 2 guys that I'm about to name. And we all know who the 2 are. And I don't know, it's just that last performance, even though he won, he didn't feel like the winner. You know what I mean? A lot of Islam Makhachev fans are going to be upset about that. It's just he didn't look like the winner in that aspect, man. He didn't look like the winner after this fight. I mean, Alexander Volkanovski looked like the clear winner. I mean, even though it was a close fight and you could have went either way with the decision, it's not a robbery and by any means. But still, man, I mean, I don't know. It's just something there because, especially in his division, Alexander Volkanovski, who is the next guy I'm going to name, Alexander Volkanovski, to me, in his division, is by far the best. I mean, there's a huge gap between everybody else and Alex in that division. Obviously, he's going to have a tough fight with Yair, and Yair can definitely give him some problems. But you saw what he did to Max Holloway. He beat him 3 times. 3 fucking times. He beat Jose Aldo. He's beaten Chad Mendes. He's beaten Korean Zombie. He's beaten Brian Ortega. He more likely beat a Calvin Kattar. He definitely could beat, and is the heavy favorite against Yair Rodriguez. He pretty much clearly beats pretty much everybody. He beats everybody in the division. It's not even close to me. It's like there's a huge gap between Alexander Volkanovski and everybody else in the featherweight division. That's why I have him at number 2. He's an amazing fighter. He's number 1 pound for pound for a reason. I mean, I believe he's still number 1 pound for pound. I don't think it's John Jones, unless they changed the rankings and now John Jones is number 1. But he's still, I mean, bro, he's pretty much about to be probably the featherweight GOAT. I think I have him as the featherweight GOAT, to be honest with you, especially if he beats Yair. And he just keeps beating everybody in the featherweight. I mean, can we even say that there's even a conversation? At this point, it's just too easy for him. Obviously, Yair's going to be a tough test, and if he beats Yair, I mean, it's definitive that he is definitely number 2 or number 1, for sure. But my number 1 is John Jones. The reason why I have John Jones, his last fight, obviously, he dominated Cyril Gane, and I think he beats everybody in the heavyweight division. The only person that I can see, I mean, he will have a really tough time with Pavlovich. Pavlovich definitely poses a threat. Obviously, Francis Ngannou poses a threat, but he's not even in the UFC anymore. So, but yeah, I think he easily beats Stipe. He's just on another level. John Jones. I mean, what else can you really say? I mean, obviously he had some, iffy fights here and there. Reyes, but that was in the light heavyweight division. We're talking about the heavyweight division. I think that both Alex and John Jones are number 1 and 2 for me. Just because I think that he clears over everybody pretty much to me. And I guess you could say the same thing about Islam, but the way Volk gave him problems is definitely something to look at. There's not really anybody in their 2 divisions that gives them problems. I mean, obviously, there is, but you look at all the other divisions that are just named. Obviously, Alex Pereira gave problems to Izzy. Robert Whittaker gives problems to Izzy. Colby Covington gives problems to Leon Edwards. Colby Covington does. You look at everybody in those divisions, it's kind of close. I think these 2 guys are the clear best guys in their divisions. That's why I have them number 1 and 2. So there you go. John Jones to me is number 1. It was close. I was going to put Volk at number 1, but then I thought about it and I'm like, I gave the slight edge to John Jones because it's John Jones. There you go. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. Thank you guys so much for everything. God bless y'all. I hope you all have a great day. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys with another video soon. Peace.